not about you. Begins with a young boy who's found beaten up in his school, and the mother rushes to the school to find him being put into an ambulance and taken away. Right? And she can't believe that her life, and she's a single mother, which she thought had kind of settled down after all the problems she'd been through, was now going through an upheaval once again. And she thought that, okay, my son's been beaten up, it couldn't be that bad, right? He'll go to hospital, things will happen, he'll be back home soon, right? Turned out to be worse than expected. And it turned out to be worse than expected because the school clammed shut. Nobody said anything. It was like a fortress, right? And the fortress extended beyond just the physical walls of the school. It extended into society. And that's what the story is all about. And I'm not going to ruin the book for you by telling you more about it, but it's a book which tries to uncover what happened, why did it happen, and why does society turn around and blame the mother, the single mother? There must be you. There must be something you did. There must be something where you actually did not take care of your son. And that's why he ended up in the state he is. And that's what the book is about, right? And there is expected stuff in there, and there's some unexpected stuff. You can read between the lines if you want to, and you can read only what's on the lines if you want to. There's enough in it to make it interesting. And we had a panel discussion. Of course, Ratna, the author, this is her second book. Her first book was I know that many of you in this audience have actually read it. It's a book which also deals about social issues, but it deals about a daughter who was in a sense disenfranchised from her family by not being recognized as part of the family tree. Right? And so that again deals with social issues, and that was a national bestseller for months and months and months. And this has been a second book by Ratna, again on a very topical issue, if I can say that. But in discussion with her, and only beginning from the other end, and no other reason to begin from that side, there is Dr. Madhav Saraswat. Madhav is somebody who's seen a lot of schooling, and he's seen it up close. He's presently principal at this India school in Gwalior. Okay. And he's also been at Doon, where he cut his teeth at Doon. Right? And he otherwise has a very interesting thing that he's completely bilingual in the literature of English and the literature in Hindi and Sanskrit. Right? And so it's a very interesting mix of languages and cultures. And he's seen bullying up close and personal. Right? And he's seen it in ways which are difficult to define to me, but he will be better at talking about it. We have Radhika Vaz, right, who some of you may have seen as a stand-up comic, right? And but many of you, I hope, have been more perceptive and read her columns, right? Which she has a book out there as well, she tries to hide that. Right? Radhika is somebody who says it as she sees it. Right? And it's very difficult sometimes, right, to cut to the chase, right? And that's what we're hoping Radhika will do. Right? We have Amrita Bhalla. Amrita Bhalla is a professor of English literature at Delhi University. She's from Jesus and Mary College, and she's somebody who has nurtured writers forever and ever. She's so receptive in the way she reads that Ratna has found her an invaluable guide, right, over the years in actually helping shape her own thoughts. We have Suhasini Hyder, whom most of you have seen on television, even though she's left television now for the print medium, and she's one of India's leading journalists. She's also a dear friend. She's also somebody who has actually seen abuse cross-culturally in different forms and fashions. So with that very long introduction, I'm going to turn it over to the panel, and I'm going to give you RATNA. And all of you on the panel, there's a little button which you have to press, otherwise nobody can hear you, on your minds. I'm going to begin with you, RATNA, and ask you to tell us a little bit about your motivations for writing the second book. Why this story?
Thank you, Shashank. I want to first begin by thanking each one of you who's here. Your presence makes it special for me today. Thank you very much. I want to thank my chief guest, and I want to thank my friends and my panel over here. The panel has my friends, so therefore, thank you so much. Writing a book is a long and lengthy process, and sometimes it gets triggered off by a thought. This book started out of a newspaper article that I read. It was to do with bullying in America. However, I looked at that, and then I looked at bullying as emotional abuse that happens in families, and the scars that any form of bullying or ragging or hazing causes. So that's how it began as a story.
There's been a recent incident, Suhasini, that you were telling me about, and I did read about it. It's uncanny. I mean, sometimes fiction kind of precedes, predates reality. And in this case, something terrible and horrible happened and Suhasini, do you want to tell us about this and how it shocked you as well?
Absolutely, and I think many in the audience would have read about the case in Calcutta last month. The truth is, and I do want to make that another platform for my book, because I don't know how many of you, and I'm sure a lot of you have read Radhika Vaz. The thing about RATNA's writing is it is everyone's story. And it was published 2 years, roughly 2 years. Yeah, that was published 2 years ago. And since then I've met so many people who told me, but this is my story, or this is somebody I know story. And similarly with this book, even as I finished reading it, I started to read about this young boy in Calcutta whose body was found in a parking lot of an upmarket apartment block in Calcutta. You know, there are parts of the story, and I don't want to give away the book for those of you who have read it yet. There are parts of the story that really resonate, so you understand just how real what I was talking about is. One of the parts was this idea of the fortress closing in. That in the beginning there were people who were willing to speak about possibilities with this young boy. There had been a fight, there had been a party, there had been some drinking and all the rest. After a while, everyone moved away, so it was as if nobody had seen actually how this boy either fell to his death or been beaten to death. There was all kinds of evidence, and yet neither the police, nor the authorities, nor the parents of the people, of the children at the party really wanted true accountability. They just wanted to say, this has happened, it's over, let's move on. Because this is all our children's future at stake. Another part of it, what RATNA spoke about right now, is the blaming of the parents in some way. You know, the fact is things will happen in your child's school, things will happen, maybe your child will be involved in them. Instead of trying to understand what are the steps needed for your child to understand the problem, recognize the problem. We in the media as well are responsible for this. The idea is that we straight away look for easy answers. And I think that's what we saw in this case as well, that the mother was essentially told by very, very senior officials, including in the government, this is about westernization, this is about the kind of money we give our children because we don't have time to give our children this. But the real problem does lie somewhere there in this idea of aggression inside schools, inside our children, inside our teenagers, and where that comes from. Maybe really later we can talk about what the media's role is and what its responsibility is. But the parallels to this case and to so many others, including the case that RATNA first reported in the US, are then cross cultures. And I really do feel that there is nobody who's untouched by this. No parent who's untouched by it, no child who's untouched by it. I can just maybe ask in the audience how many can remember back to their school and can remember either being bullied or an instance of bullying. Is there anyone here? It would be interesting to know that according to the American Pediatric Society, I think 36% have said that they have faced, I think they said, 36% have faced some sort of bullying. In India, the figure is 1 in 3. Obviously, different sample sizes and different methodology. But that, the fact is that this is as common as that, and I can see from the audience here.
I'm going to pick up on that Nisha line in a little bit, but I want to just bring Madhav into this a little bit to just get into what happens at a school. Now, Madhav, you've been at 2 schools which are very different in their character, right? Even though ostensibly they might be similar schools, they're very different schools, right? And you've seen bullying up close and personal. Right? Can you share with us what you've seen and what are the incidents? How does it happen? What's the bullying that we talk about in schools?
Shashank, before talking about this bullying story, I would like to ask the entire audience that what are we talking about? Because it seems that talking about bullying has become a fashion. And it has become literally jargon because neither we understand that what does it mean to be bullied and how do we define bullying. Yesterday was when I was boarding the train. There was a police officer who had 2 escorts. So these escorts came and very conveniently they moved my bag and forced me to shift. Now, by the definition of this Indian society, I think I'm a person who should be respected. I also happen to be principal of one of the oldest school in India, and I was not respected, and I was bullied in training. The principal in India is being bullied on the train, and then the society expects me to look after me in the school. It's a very awkward situation actually, because none of us wish to get into the depth that why there is bullying and how we can deal with it. The first and foremost is that we don't accept that there is bullying. We refuse to accept. We refuse to accept in our families. We refuse to accept within friends. We refuse to accept in the society. And then we refuse to accept in the school. then why such a hullabaloo for schools? Because in 30 years of my career as a teacher, what I have understood, schools are the softest targets for each and everybody. Master is such a humble soul who can be taught by anyone, especially by those people who have never seen the classroom. And that's why whenever there is bullying in the school, the entire society starts talking about aggression, bullying, each and everything. But they forget that this bullying is coming actually from them. This bullying is coming from their families. And every time you compromise because of your insecurities, you give a chance for a bully. You give a chance to your child to learn a little less. So there is bullying. I have seen bullying with myself as an adult, as a teacher. I have got few of my students standing here. I have got few of people who have been my parents. And if I share with them that I have been bullied, I am sure that none of them is going to believe that. But the fact remains that there is bullying. People don't accept it. People are full of insecurities. And to create a safe space for themselves, knowingly or unknowingly, they become bullies. And that insecurity in professionals, especially in the schools, gets transferred to the students. It is our inability, it is our insecurity as teachers. Also, we are equipped to deal with the bullies, and that's why bullying is there and will always remain there.
I'm going to bring you in on this because I know you're completely exasperated with anybody who tries to bully somebody or, to a level where I think you're thinner skin on this than most people, but you've got a tougher fist than most people as well. Right? So with this thin skin and tough fist, right, what actually makes you have this thin skin? I mean, why do you have such language, tell people, right, this is where to get off? Is that what we should all be doing? Should we all be just telling bullies, this is the line, you cross it, you get a bloody nose?
Yeah, I think, I agree with one thing that you said, which was that, I got bullied in school, I went to boarding school as well. I got bullied in school, and then I bullied back, and most of the time when I bullied back, it was really so that no one else would bully me. I would join hands with the bullies so that everyone else would know that, you heard it all kind. And it was horrible and it was disgusting, and I'm glad it's over. I hope nobody remembers it. But everything's bullying, and actually with this particular book, the thing that, of course, with children it's horrible, and I think the reason schools are soft targets are because the victims are so young, and so obviously they can't defend themselves as well, and all of that stuff. But if you look at life, if you look at this book even, the bullying doesn't stop in schools. It carries on and on and on. Like this woman, the mother, she got basically bullied. Like she was being bullied by the school. They were closing ranks. On her walk past, people were sort of telling her that they wouldn't give her the information, or they were shutting the investigation that she was trying to make down. Sexism is basically bullying. Racism is bullying. Homophobia is bullying. When we, try and put our opinion on how people are supposed to live, whether it's men telling women or white people telling black people or casteism is bullying, these are all forms of bullying and we all live with them every single day. I had a conversation recently with a friend of mine. We bully the people who work for us. Like, if you think about it, the people who work for us, our domestic help, our maids and whatnot, they're bullied regularly by all of us who don't want our children to be bullied. And parents get very defensive about bullying, I think, especially their child is the bully. It's not a reflection on the parent all the time. It really isn't. I mean, there are plenty of nice parents with shitty kids, and there are plenty of shitty parents with nice kids. And it's okay. It's okay, you know, but the way to stop the cycle usually is to just accept and acknowledge that it's there. And yeah, I get very upset, and particularly I think when you see somebody like a mother or a woman just being shut down, which is a single parent and all of that stuff, it's bugs me.
Bring it to you from there, because you deal with a lot of young women, right? Many of whom are going out into the world, and some of whom will be bullied in the homes they grow out into, and some of whom come to you with scars that they've already done. Now, in this book, you have the single mother who is facing bullying of a kind that talks about, but also a generational bullying. Right? And how does one decide, I mean, where one carry forward into the next generation?
I just want to go back to what you said, Shashank.
Absolutely.
When you said that literature predates reality. Taking off from where Suhasini left off, the role of literature for holding up a mirror to society, for talking about it, for dealing with social issues. Indian writing in English, which is what we have now. We don't call it English literature in the University of Delhi. What I teach is literature in English. We've come a long way from a time when it was identified as Matthew Arnold in a sari or Shakuntala in a skirt. Here, Indian writing in English dealing with contemporary society, issues in our world, the world as we know it, India, Gurgaon, Delhi, a school in South Delhi, the one-upmanship of students. RATNA, in both her novels, Daughter by Court Order and It's Not About You, holds up a reflection, a mirror to what is happening around us. Have the courage to speak about it. As we've said throughout, silence means consent. We don't talk about it, we push it under the carpet. Whether we are dealing with gender discrimination, which Daughter by Court Order deals with, whether it's dealing with bullying, whether it's dealing with stereotypical notions of single women bringing up children. Obviously, they must be colored, they must be sleeping around, how do they earn their money, stereotypical notions, RATNA analyzing it. And when I say silence is consent, I teach the Mahabharata in my English literature class. And just today I dealt with the assembly hall where Draupadi Chirharan takes place. Whether it is Bhishma Pitama, whether it is Drona, whether it is the king, whether it is a council of the senior most ministers, the wisest of people, there is dead silence. And the speech made by the sagacious Vidya, what does silence mean in the Mahabharata? Silence means consent. You don't take up issues. So hats off to RATNA for engaging with issues that we talk about but do not have the courage to confront or to bring it out in the open. While talking, I'm just thinking of Bhishma Sami. He wrote Tamas, and I was watching an interview of his nephew Parikshit Sami, who said partition took place 1947. Bhishma Sami saw this view, women standing in a line to
drowning the well. He had nightmares about it for 30 years. And then he wrote Tamas. Cathartic it was for him to write, to deal with an issue. So for RATNA, a personal journey to write for readers of Indian writing in English, which is not Charles Dickens, which is not William Wordsworth's Daffodils, which is our world. To take up issues, to engage, and for me to discuss it with my students in college, and college, University of Delhi, the wide range of students that we have. My press buddy's granddaughter is my student. Senior CEO of a multinational industry's daughter is my student. We sit together in class. There is reservation, economically backward, socially discriminated against. We sit together, Indian writing in English, discuss issues. So as I said, hats off to RATNA, both the books, daughter by court order, bringing out, where a cover is put on everything. Let's bring it out in the open man, let's talk about it. In literature, reflection of our contemporary society.
I have to take it back to you after that, because one of the things that I keep hearing from people is, my God, how brave of RATNA to have actually written the stories that she does write. Right? It's been difficult, I can tell you that. It's been difficult because the easiest part has been not to write what she writes. Right? And as we all know, books are not the way to become, George Soros. You're not going to become George Soros writing books. That's not the way, that's not why we write books. And so, it was definitely easier not to have written either of these two books, right? And yet you kept going, right? And what do you say? Do you feel it was brave of you to have written it? I think it was, right? But when there's so many people telling you, you needn't have done it, or you shouldn't do it, what kept you going?
It was tougher to write daughter by court order, honestly, than this book. The reasons are obvious, but one of the big ones was that it was my first book, and I'm grateful to Fingerprint for publishing it, and grateful to Pam Macmillan for publishing my second book. I have to mention my editor, Sushmita. Thank you very much for helping make It's Not About You what it is today. Having said that, yes, it requires conviction and it requires courage to write the stories that are right. As Amrita said, and Radhika and my panel mentioned, I hold up a mirror to society. I hold up a mirror to the hypocrisy in our society that plagues us. I talk about issues which we don't want to talk about. I'm going to tell you something. An English friend of mine wrote to me, sent me an email with images saying that my books are selling in Islamabad. That's fantastic. That's really good. However, it also took my attention to Kantin Baloch, who was done away with for wearing clothes and maybe acting in a way that seems offensive. However, in another culture, some miles away, there was nothing wrong with it. That's Islamabad, that's Pakistan, will tell me. It doesn't happen to us. we no longer make, it no longer makes headlines when a daughter or a sister is done away with by a brother in our society. Because then you'll tell me that, that's not our society, that's another economic strata. Let me remind you, daughter by court order, Aranya and her family and her brother, who in my book I describe as Western educated, could be one of us. And that's what's disturbing. Samaira's family that I describe is and can be one of us. Could have gone to college with you, could have been in school with you. And that's what's disturbing. And therefore it requires great courage to write the books I write. It's not only a Gandhi Baloch that can be done away with. Each one of us that starts a conversation that makes people uncomfortable runs a risk. And literature that holds up a mirror is no different.
And Shashank, just coming back to the point you mentioned earlier about the role media plays in all of this. Media exposes, but media also silences, right? And it's just as media can uncover things, media can also be part of the cover-up. And what responsibility does media actually have, do you feel, in exposing all of this and saying it might be the person sitting on the seat next to me, right? But I'm going to be willing to say no longer. This stops here.
Considering I'm a part of the media, I'm going to say that I think we need a serious paradigm shift in the way we perceive the media's role when it comes to bringing up the next generation. Because we have taken it for granted that the way we grew up is the way our children will grow up. But actually that's not the truth. We all know that our children are exposed to far too much violence. Some say children are exposed to 40 acts of violence in a day. So we have to take a step back and think, where are they seeing these 40 acts of violence in a day? One of the places is obviously these Xbox, gaming stations, PlayStations, and all the rest of that. I can see the kids in the back rooting because I don't know all the technical terms of things they're using. So that's one place where you're physically getting into a fight with somebody, it's virtual, so it seems okay. The other place is the kind of gang up or bullying that one will see on social media. We in media feel the victims of it quite often. But imagine if it's a child. And there are a whole bunch of people on that social media shaming you in front of your peer group. It's that much tougher. The third place is, of course, the media itself. That's television and newspapers. Is this what we grew up with? I don't think so. So I do think that there is a need for a paradigm shift in thinking, what is the media's responsibility? So the first part is, absolutely, I take what you're saying, when there are cases of bullying, when there are cases like this, what is the media's role in clearing it up? And that's part of the news process that unfortunately is part of a larger problem in society. What should we clear up, what should we clear up less? But I almost think we need to think of new ways to deal with it. The first is to say we have to put a stop on gratuitous violence. We make a big fuss about gratuitous violence in films, about gender-based violence in films, but somehow we're okay with it in contemporary media because this is the truth. Children must see the truth. But is it necessary? Did we grow up things going on? Maybe it's not possible to take away the images. Maybe you can only mask them the second time you show them. but there's a need for a greater sensitivity between news channels, because as I said, what we're dealing with is something new. We're not dealing with something that's always been the case. We need to sort of deal with a whole new situation of what it's doing to our children. There are also subliminal messages. And again, I'll say, when you see a news anchor bullying their guests on TV simply because he can turn off or she somebody else's mic, what is the message that is going to our children? I mean, I don't mean anyone in particular. But the truth is, see how your children are reacting to that. See how your children watch it and say, this is how grown-ups behave. It makes me sad. Actually, it really does make me sad when I see it, because it's an example of behavior we would not allow our children to emulate. And yet we watch it day after day on TV without thinking of the kind of impression it is creating on them. I did look up what is the kind of impact all of this violence, and I put it all in one place, has. And according to the American Psychological Association, there are 3 basic impacts, and I'm sure all of you can speak a little more about how to deal with them. One is that children become less sensitized to violence. It's impossible for them not to, it's impossible for them to be sensitized. Every day we see or hear about a bomb blast that kills at least 100 people. How do you see that day after day without becoming desensitized in a sense? The second impact has been that they are more fearful of the world. And when you are more fearful, you will react to the world a different way. And then, of course, the third being that they are more aggressive towards others. So I think we really need to come up with, new norms of the kind of media we are subjecting our children to, because it's not just our children, it will be our children's children, and it will become successively more and more difficult to put these kind of I don't want to call them filters, but yes, that's what I mean. We do shelter our children from a lot of the reality of the world until we possibly can, until they can stand on their own 2 feet. So I do think the media is one place we have to do that.
Radhika, I'm going to take you to the teenage voice. That is, it's not about you. Actually speaks in the teenage voice a lot, and a lot of teenagers out here, and some of them have annual read the book as well. But this teenage voice is very different to the other voices in the book, right? And it's there's a whole different media culture out there, which I, as the adult who has 2 teenagers, doesn't quite understand. I don't have a clue as to what the teenage voice is and the media that they deal with, right? Newspapers, right? Sort of like is probably the best thing to use it for, right? Magazines. Is it available online, and is it encapsulated in some way? Right? That doesn't mean they don't engage with topics. I mean, I've seen many of the kids whom I see here, right, when they're working on an MUN or something like that, they so deeply get into a topic. So it's not about that they can't engage, but they choose not to engage. The way they engage is different, right? Now, you, Radhika, as an adult, right, engage, if I can say, in a teenage way. Was that very immature? That is true. Very good. But what I want you to really focus on is, do you consciously do this, right? And do you see the teenage voice that is in the book, right? It's something that you could identify with. You don't have a teenager on the panel, so I have to make do with you.
Well, I look like one, so that's fine. I'm not a parent, and but I have teenage nieces and nephews and all of that. And I'm very good friends with them because I'm not their parent. I'm an auntie, and so I'm sort of the auntie that they can hang with and do all that stuff that you teenagers do. But I think that one of the things that definitely the media plays its part, and I think the media has always played its part, but bullying and this kind of thing has been around since even when we were in school, and it was horrible. Like I remember in Lovedale, I went to learn school Lovedale, and in girls' school we were not allowed to touch it. Like there was definitely no physical violence, but there was certainly a lot of emotional bullying. In the boys' school, there was full-on beating up. I mean, there were kids who were beaten up and went to hospital. And so that's something that was going on long before Xbox and all of the new media that the young people are being exposed to today. I think it's always going to be a balance of any kind of stimuli that they get, whether it's at home, what they're seeing that's happening at home, how their parents speak to one another. So if you have, parents or even grandparents who speak to the mother a certain way, that's something that the grandchild is going to internalize. So I think anybody who has any kind of influence on a child's life is completely responsible to behave a certain way around those kids. Obviously, that's one thing. In terms of media, I never read newspaper growing up. I didn't read anything my parents wanted me to read. I did exactly as I wanted. I got shouted for it. I didn't care. Like I just did whatever I wanted. And that's pretty much how most kids are. They're going to do what they want. They have access to all kinds of things. Snapchat, Twitter, Facebook. They all have, by the way, parents, like multiple Facebook IDs. Okay, like you may think that you have the password to one. You don't have the password to the other two. And that's just kind of the way it is, and you can't police them either. You just have to sort of try and lead as much as you can, I guess, by example, and literally hope for the best. But one place that I definitely think it's very important to know about your kids is who their friends are. That's something that even in the book seemed to be like an issue that suddenly came up to the mom. Like she wasn't, it wasn't her fault. Like most people, and it's not about being a single parent. You can have two parents and a set of grandparents all living in the same house, and you may not know who your kids are hanging out with. And I think that's something that's really important.
You stress on something that's critically important, and I'm just going to compare and contrast both of RATNA's books on one aspect, which is the parent-child relationship. Right? And in the second book, and very evidently from the title, there's conflict where the teenager says to the mother, "It's not about you." Right? And there is that conflict, right, which comes through in the second book. In the first book, the protagonist grows up in a joint family, right? Which is supposed to be nurturing, which is supposed to be supportive, which is supposed to understand, right? And those are two different cultural perspectives. Right? And I'm just going to ask actually anyone who would like to comment on that about the fact that there are all these two differences between sometimes maybe it's generational, maybe we all said it's not about you to our parents. We did, right? But something has changed now, right? It's different, right? You can be on Snapchat, Twitter, etc., and still be part of a very close family network. And you can be part of a joint family and still have no clue as to what's going on in the head. Right? Any comments from anyone?
I think it's impossible to generalize. It's such a complex world now. When you said you didn't read a newspaper in your growing up years, I can't imagine a day without getting up to reading the paper. And I find both my children getting up and saying, oh, you're reading the newspaper now. I knew this at 4 a.m. in the morning. 4 a.m. What, you were awake? Of course I was awake at 4 a.m. and the news came in on my internet. I got this news. It's a complex world. It's impossible to make generalizations. So it's nice when literature picks up a certain section and gives you a picture of it, and we sit and analyze it. We are all armchair intellectuals. There is a reality outside. When I say that I teach 34 years, I've been teaching in a college, I've never been as depressed as I am today. I do not understand TTYL, ROFL, GWS. I would send to my husband and my daughter, so what is there to laugh about? Didn't know that I thought it meant lots of love. It's a strange world. And it's impossible to make generalizations about joint families, single mothers, nuclear family. And just wanted to share talking about economic discrimination. My breast family's granddaughter did very well in class 12. I said, you're coming to Jesus and Mary College. I spent the summer vacation sitting with her at my dining table, speaking to her in English, took her to Sharmila Tagore, fitted her out so that she could blend in with the college crowd. Nth minute, Sita said, thank you, but no thank you. It makes me weep that my Dada Dadi and my mother and father are ironing clothes come hell or high water. I want to contribute to the family kitty. I'm doing a computer course for 6 months and getting a job in a BPO. That's a harsh reality. So generalizations, talking about the next generation, what media does, what literature does, the world, India is too complex now. I'm 3 generations above my children. There's a gap, huge gap.
Yeah, I mean, I'm one of those people who only knows one emoji, right? And my kids and my friends who know that you always get a straight smiley from me, which I'm told is a fake smiley, something like that. Yeah. Which, as far as I know, is I could do a typewriter. It's a colon and a close parentheses. I could do that forever and ever. Yeah. And because I keep getting these strange smileys from people. Riku, for example, sends me smileys that come like green Martians with antennae. I don't know if you guys have got those. She insists that's a big grin smiley. I can't see the big grin of the smiley in there. Yes, there is a complete disconnect between our world and the world of the teenager. But there is also a deeper connect that both your books, RATNA, have actually talked about. Right? And that connect is perhaps the first way and mechanism for the way forward. And I will go back to you, Madhav, and say, how do we deal with bullying? Communication is obviously one way, right? But how do we deal with bullying in society and schools and in families?
Shashank, as far as society is concerned, it is more or less established that it has become part of our DNA. So to expect any change from the society is asking for 100 years, 200 years, 300 years to change. The only way to address this is that we have to equip our children. And I'm giving my own example because I have experimented this with my own child. I have a daughter, she is 20 years old. She was in class 4, we shifted from there to Nasik. And this girl was being harassed by her classmate. She took it for 2 days, 3 days, she beat the hell out of the boy. And there was a complaint from the principal. And the complaint was, within inverted commas, it was not expected of her. You being teacher, what kind of value system you have at home? This girl is beating boys. So that was the first party which I threw for my mother. We went out for dinner. And my wife, poor soul, she said, मैंने सुना था कि बाप बेटों को बिगाड़ते हैं लेकिन बेटी को बिगाड़ने वाला बाप एक ही होता है. But the fact remains that I am there today, I won't be there tomorrow. And for how long she will start, she will continue looking for me to fend for herself. She has to learn. So the best thing we can do for our kids is that we equip them. We need to understand the various ways of bullying, physical, emotional, psychological. And as parents, as society, as guardians, we need to equip each and every child to respond to that, not to react. Because if you start reacting to bullying, then this change will never stop. So learn, ask them, train them to respond to this, so that you can safeguard yourself. Whenever I talk to my kids, I tell them that, look, don't come to my office for little things. Try to settle your own scores. Be a man. But I also tell them that whenever you think that your personal dignity is being compromised, don't accept it for anything. So if there is any compromise, somebody is forcing you to compromise for your personal dignity, don't accept that. And do whatever you can do in your power. Because you have to learn to face these bullies. You have to learn to respond to them, and you have to make them understand that you also exist. And that's the only way. Because I'm with her. It's very easy to discuss. But when you face it, it's a different issue altogether. You can sympathize with the child. You can talk to him, you can counsel him, but that hurt is always there. It remains part of your personality for the rest of your life. So just ensure that this child doesn't go through that experience ever. Forewarn him and prepare him. Tell him, son, the world outside is not as good as you. The world is full of surprises, and you have to be ready to face those surprises.
Shashank, with the permission, I'm to come in here. What happens when the bully is within the family? Mother, that is the tough one to face. When it is a relationship that is sacred, endorsed by a court order, she's let down, Aranya's let down by everyone. She's let down by her hero, Beauty Mama. One face to the world, another in his personal life. Santri and Mantri, when it's not about you, show the same hypocrisy, and they let people down. The enemy can sometimes be within the family, sometimes from parents, and we are all parents here. We learn what to be, we emulate our parents. But very often, especially in my books, both Aranya and Samaira reject the mother. They want to be as unlike her as possible. Because bullying, when it's at home, emotional abuse, and what's really sad or in a way liberating as a writer is how many people come up and tell me, is this your story or mine, like what Suhasini said, and they share their stories, or they further add to it. And I find my books just reflect that. They reflect what happens in contemporary India. In fact, Pioneer called it that. It referred to my book as the story of contemporary India, because this is what is happening.
Kata, I'm with you on that, because it's impossible to address that. But what do? Either you accept or say I'm done with it. It takes time. Some of us are unfortunate who have to go through this experience. Some are fortunate. But the fact remains that in this world when cunning intelligence is respected more than humility and wisdom, all this will continue happening. It is up to us, the entire society, that what kind of next generation we would like to have. That's a reality, and it's a harsh reality, and we have to accept it. It's happening everywhere. It's happening everywhere. You would remember when we were interacting with this room, and I shared my own story that my father thought that I was not intelligent enough. So both my brothers were asked to take up science stream when I was asked to take up art stream. Don't you think that's also part of me? I was told that you are inferior to your brothers. So what do I do with them? I cannot change my father. But today I know that actually he has affected me. But being Indian son, I have to respect him.
Sometimes the echo that we start off carries on for generations.
So I think we have to have a sense of responsibility. Each one of us, just in our everyday behavior. I want to jump out of the car and ask, come on. मैंने आपके लिए ये खाना बनाया, तो मम्मी आपका बर्थडे है, माँ का तो गोल है कि सबको खुश रखें, cooking or something like that. Just fair and lovely. We just imbibe all these signs sent out by media, advertisements, movies. Parents, teachers have to be so alert as to what we are being directed towards and how stereotypes should be made. Just a sense of responsibility, each one of us.
I'm going to bring it back to you, right? Just in a sense to wrap all of this together. Right? Your books deal with a lot of emotion. Right? They deal with relationships. They deal with relationships that don't work. They also deal with relationships that work. Right? And I think what your books deal with as far as relationships are concerned is unusual places where you get let down and equally unusual places where you find help and assistance from. Right? And I think that's remarkable, right? In the way you structurally, right, deal with both your books. And we'll just try and bring all of this together with you to say, right, give us your thoughts about the way you write, right? What are the final thoughts that you'd like to share with the audience here in terms of why you wrote this book, why you like the way you do?
My characters are people that you see around, the Marcy Ji or the Choti Pua. Everyone has a favorite aunt who amuses you, tells you something, informs you, and there's also continuity with the past and what's happening, that helps you make sense of what is happening in the world around you. I'm a writer. I can write and I can talk, and I'll keep you entertained for a long time. But I think we need to wrap up. Hopefully these won't be closing words. Hopefully my book will serve to start many new conversations. It's important that we don't turn away when we see bullying or oppression of any kind, be it on the playfield and in schools or within families, whether in college or in society or in the media, drowning each other. We're not blaming anyone, we're just saying it. Our silence is often complicity. It gives power to those who do wrong so that they can continue with that. We look away because this fire is not in our drawing room. It is not ours. It is not our life that is impacted. It is, we feel, not our problem. We go to the next party. We continue with the next event. And then wonder when it hits us, because life does catch up. When it is indeed our lives that are impacted, it is our daughter, our son, our grandchild, or maybe us. We wonder why no one stands up. That's because we never stood up. We never spoke up. It is a fungus and undergrowth of social problems, and we cannot afford to look away. We cannot externalize the problem and say that someone else has to sort it out. The school, the principal, the whoever, we externalize it. We often turn around and say, look at the law, and say the law has to be there. Often the law is there. We figure out ways to break it. And as Ravina Rajkoli had said, most people fall over each other to help the powerful, the people we think are important, are definitely rich, by keeping quiet. A book can be a catalyst for change, but actually each one of you is the change. Each one of you who stands up and doesn't look away is the hero. And with that, I close. Thank you.